أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على السلام حي على السلام حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم ولسانا وشفاء وسيدا وأولاد أبرارا وجعل عند قبر نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستقر قرار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم وبصم كل شيء وعداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شأنه كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزو عنه عاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلق العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينة النجاة واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرقا وهذا أوصيكم بعد الله بالاكتساب بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وأروة الوثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The verse that I recited is from Surah Ibrahim, ayat number 24 and ayat number 25, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he states on numerous occasions, gives a parable, an example in comparison to Shajara Tayyibah or Kalama Tayyibah. The translation goes as this: have you not regarded how Allah has drawn a parable? A good word is like a good tree. Its roots are steady and its branches are in the sky. We look at this concept of kalima. We find out that the word kalima could be translated as the collection of words put together in order to explain something or to bring it to someone's understanding. That which I want to, or I desire to explain to you today in this khutbah is called kalima, or it's the majmu'ah of kalimat. It's the collection of the different kalimat is what I'm going to explain, or I'm going to go ahead and inculcate to you. And that's what the word kalima is. And that's why it says in another place in Quran, kalimatullah hiyal uliya. The kalam of Allah is at the peak and the highest of the kalam, and nothing could be compared to the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah gives this example over here, first He compares and gives a parable of kalima tayyiba with shajara tayyiba, and then explains the further features of this kalima, while saying that, have you regarded how Allah has drawn a parable? A good word is like a good tree. Now think about this example, a good word. And of course, as I said, good word here is a very simple, basic, basit translation. Kalima means the collection of words which are to use to explain something to someone. So when I'm trying to explain something to you right now, this is what kalima is. So keep that translation of the word kalima in mind when you're looking at this parable. A good word is like a good tree. Its roots are steady and its branches are in the sky. So after having explained the good word, kalima tayyiba, Allah compares it with shajara tayyiba, a tree which is blessed. Why is this tree blessed? Because this tree is of a certain fruit. This tree bears certain things which no other tree bears. Allah did not explain the reason behind this tree being, for example, a tree which is producing great amount of fruits, a tree which is producing great amount of wood, for example, that could be used for mankind. So now the reason what makes this tree tayyib is the two things. It says, asluha thabitun wa faru'uha fis sama. Its roots are steady and its branches are in the sky. These are the two things that make this tree to be a tree which is blessed. Nothing else is compared over here. And then when you look at the next ayah, it says it gives its fruit every season by the leave of its Lord. Allah draws these parables for mankind that they may take admonition. I don't know, something is up with the mic today. It's going in and out. Hopefully you can hear me. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One more loud salawat, please. So with that understanding, now we look at the parable that Allah has given. Of course, it's a parable. It's an example. There must be this is the apparent meaning of it. But is that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means over here? Just comparing a good word with a good tree? How beneficial could that be? When Allah has given us the example that it gives its fruits in every season, and the fact that it has a firm roots and the branches are in the sky tells you that Allah is speaking of something other than the actual tree itself, right? Tree is just being used as an example over here, and there's something else which is entailing, or which is to be confirmed over here. So with that explanation, we look at that majority of the mufassirin, when they talk about this kalima tayyiba and this shajara tayyiba, you might have also heard that the family tree. Why do they call it family tree? Because there are branches of the tree, and then you go all the way up to from where the family started and began, and everybody tries to look for their roots. And they're search for, there are many websites out there nowadays where you can go ahead and search with DNA samples and all that stuff to find out. And alhamdulillah, amongst us as well, various families, they have their own family trees, shajara, they call it, and they can look back up to all the way if they come from the family of Sadat, they can root and go back all the way to the Imam that they are the descendants of, and of course that leads to the Rasulullah. So with that said, we have this concept of shajara, that we have shajara nasab, or this tree which is called the family tree. That is the example which is being given over here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. A good word is the parable for a good tree representing this family, this blessed family, which produces its roots in all season, and it's firmly grounded in the ground. The roots are thabit, and it's ever reaching towards the sky. That means it's always in the path of taraqi. It's always in the path of getting higher and higher and higher. What kind of family is this? Right after these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains the opposite and the contrary to this sort of family in the form of shajara khabitha, the family which is, to be frowned upon, discarded, degraded, or disgraced. That family which is considered to be khabitha. So here, majority of the mufassirin, when they talk about this, they refer to that this is the family of Rasul Akram Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Today, being the last day of the month of Shawwal, marks the birth of Muslim Islam, Hazrat Abu Talib ibn Abdul Muttalib alayhi salatu wassalam. And for that reason, I chose this ayah, because the family of Abu Talib, there's a great deal that we owe to the family of Abu Talib. And of course, there's no doubt about his life that he spent in protecting the Holy Prophet, which is mentioned, and I will quote some narrations as well in front of you, which talk about the wasiyat of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib on his deathbed as he spoke to Hazrat Abu Talib. In the history, there isn't more prosperous and blessed family than the family of Hazrat Abu Talib. This last day of the month of Shawwal marks the birth anniversary of this great personality who was the son of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, paternal uncle of Rasulullah, and father of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Hazrat Abdul Muttalib had 10 sons, and Hazrat Abdullah, the father of Prophet Muhammad, was one of them, who was born from the same mother, that of Hazrat Abu Talib, and that is the reason one of the wasiyat of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib was at the time of his death to go ahead and take care of his grandson. And this is the words of the wasiyat: وَكَانَ عَبْدُ الْمُطَّلِبْ لَمَّا حَضَرَتْهُ الْوَفَاةِ. When wafat or death came upon him, أَوْصَى ابْنَهُ أَبَا طَالِبٍ. He gave wasiyat to his son Abu Talib, بِحِفْزِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ, to go ahead and be a protector or to protect Rasulullah, وحياطته والقيام عليه, وأوصى به إلى أبي طالب لأن عبد الله والد النبي وأبا طالب كان لأم واحدة. And the reason this narrator is mentioning that the fact that Hazrat Abdul Muttalib gave this wasiyah to Hazrat Abu Talib and no other sons, there are 10 sons, right? One of them is Hazrat Abdullah, who has passed away, and Abu Talib is there, and there are other sons as well. He gives this wasiyat wa Abu Talib kana li ummin wahidatin, because both of them were from the same mother. فَلَمَّا مَاتَ عَبْدُ الْمُطَّلِبْ كَانَ أَبُو طَالِبٍ هُوَ الَّذِي يَلِي أَمْرَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ بَعْدَ جَدِّهِ. He was the one who would take care of the affairs of Rasulullah after the wafat of his grandfather. He is the first advocate and protector of Rasulullah, because he was among the tribal leaders of Makkah. People couldn't harm Prophet because of him. He's got a son by the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib himself, from whom 11 grandchildren, all of whom are infallible. I'm just counting some of the merits of Hazrat Abu Talib. Another son is by the name of Ja'far al-Tayyar, who was also martyr in the Battle of Mu'tah, and lost both of his arms and was given wings like angels, and he's also buried in Jordan. Another son is by the name of Aqil, who has a son by the name of Muslim, who had 2 children by the name of known as Tiflan Muslim, who were martyred in Karbala. So these are some of the merits. Without even going into the personality of Hazrat Abu Talib, you could find that shajara tayyibah, that kalama tayyibah, that tree, that family tree, which is being referred to in these ayat of Quran. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Hazrat Abu Talib was the uncle of the beloved of Holy Prophet He took care of him, and throughout his life, the responsibility of upbringing and nurturing Rasulullah right from the beginning, and protected Rasulullah with all of his energy that he had, and he dedicated that. There's a riwayat which mentions وَرَوَى ibn Sa'd wa ibn Asakir an ibn Abbas. So Ibn Sa'd and Ibn Asakir, both of them narrate from Ibn Abbas, قالوا لما توفي عبد المطلب قبض أبو طالب رسول الله فكان يكون معه. When Abdul Muttalib passed away, Abu Talib took Rasulullah in his custody, and he was with him. وَكَانَ يُحِبُّهُ حُبًّا شَدِيدًا. And he had this, حُبِّ الشَّدِيد, this great love and intense love for him. لَا يُحِبُّ وَلَدَهُ مِثْلَهُ. Even to the extent that he didn't love his children that way, the way he loved Rasulullah. وَكَانَ لَا يَنَامُ إِلَّا إِلَى جَنْبِهِ. And he won't sleep except right besides him. وَكَانَ يَخُصُّهُ بِالطَّعَامِ. And he would make sure and pay extra attention when it came to the ta'am of Rasulullah as well. وَكَانَ عِيَالُ أَبِي طَالِبٍ إِذَا أَكَلُوا جَمِيعًا أَوْ فُرَادًا لَمْ يَشْبَعُوا وَإِذَا أَكَلَ مَعَهُمْ Rasulullah شَبِعُوا. And when the family of Abu Talib would eat by themselves, they would not feel as if they were filled until they ate with Rasulullah. Only then they would feel that they have been filled completely after having consumed the food. In Surah Al-Duha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses in the following way when he says, Alam yajidka yatiman fa'awa. Did he not find you orphan and gave you shelter? Chapter 93, verse number 6. It is stated that this verse refers to the protection and the shelter which was mentioned in the wasiyat of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, that Abu Talib had provided this protection and this shelter to Rasulullah. Nobody can claim that in the history of Madhab Islam. Go ahead and pick up any book of history, whether it is from Madhab Tashayyu, whether it is from Madhab Ahl Tasannun, whether it is someone who belongs to neither one of these two, has written a book on history, would mention that this ayat is referring toward Hazrat Abu Talib. Therefore, we look at one or two things that we can draw from this ayat. This act of Hazrat Abu Talib was called by Allah his own act. What did he say? Alam yajidka yatiman fa'awa. That did he not find you orphan and he gave you shelter. That means what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's providing shelter for us, Rasulullah. Therefore, the one who actually provided in this world was in the form of Hazrat Abu Talib. Therefore, Allah is calling the actions of Hazrat Abu Talib to be what? His own actions from that aspect. After the famous incident, when Rasul Akram Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam refused the offers of wealth, offers of marriage, and the status from the mushrikeen of Makkah, Abu Talib gave his full support to the Prophet and provided him protection in this very delicate era of Islam. Ibn Kathir al-Dimashqi in his book narrates the following couplets from Hazrat Abu Talib. فَلَسْنَا وَرَبُّ الْبَيْتِ نُسَلِّمُ أَحْمَدًا لِعَزَائِ مَنْ عَزَّ زَمَانٍ وَلَكَ. He said, by the God of Baytullah, we will not submit Ahmad to you. Remember, the word Ahmad is used for Rasulullah when he ascended to Mi'raj, and Allah spoke to him. He was known as Ahmad and the Arsh of Allah, and he was known as Muhammad on this ground, on this earth. So Hazrat Abu Talib, when he speaks about him, he says, by the God of Baytullah, we will not submit Ahmad to you, no matter how much you pressure us and create problems for us. One day, Holy Prophet invited all his family members. You know this. This is known as Dawat Dhul Ashira. For a meal after the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had come down, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, in regards to introduction of the religion of Islam. Hazrat Abu Talib said to him, "Oh my nephew, rise. You possess the highest rank. Your party is the most honorable party. You are the son of a noble man, and whenever a tongue opens against you, there will be many stronger tongues that will open to defend you. So don't be afraid of what Allah has commanded you to do. Stand up." Just imagine someone who's amongst the leaders of Quraysh comes and gives you this sort of backing, regardless of how much people will go ahead and do afterwards. This initial support is the backbone of the entire legacy to come. And Hazrat Abu Talib provides that. He said, by God, the Arabs will be humbled in front of you like a baby animal in front of its mother. During the most troublesome days in Shaykh Abi Talib, Hazrat Abu Talib led the Quraysh into isolation, and upon the social boycott that was done by the mushrikeen of Makkah, during these 3 years, he used to make his sons sleep in place of Rasulullah, lest the enemy is waiting to go ahead and ambush and attack Prophet, and he would rather have one of his sons be sacrificed and protect Rasulullah during the nighttime. And if there was an attack, he wouldn't mind his son being killed as long as the Prophet was alive. You see that this runs in the family. Hazrat Abu Talib trained his sons in this way that you should always be ready to go ahead and sacrifice yourself for Rasulullah. I think that is the reason when Rasulullah himself asked Amirul Mu'mineen on the night of Hijrat, "Oh Ali, sleep in my bed." Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib, without any hesitation, because the upbringing was there, because the training was already there in those years of Shaykh Abi Talib, he knew that he had to do nothing except to go ahead and fulfill the commands of Rasulullah. I usually don't want to talk about this absurd concept people bring up in regards to the Iman, but there are certain points that have been mentioned just for the food of thought, and I'll go through them quickly because I don't really think that there's any need for us to even ponder over the Iman of such a personality. Abu Talib was the one who hosted the first da'wah in his house, a da'wah of Islam known as Da'watul Ashira. All the da'was hosted by any Muslim nowadays are in fact what? The sunnah of Hazrat Abu Talib. So if you hold a da'wat bringing fellow Muslims to your house, you are actually acting on the sunnah of Hazrat Abu Talib. He was the one who arranged the marriage of Prophet with Bibi Khadija salamullahi alayha. He was the one who recited the nikah of the Holy Prophet, and that nikah started with the hamd of Allah and the praise of his Prophet. It is also referred to the prophethood of Hazrat Ibrahim in that khutbah of his, and the holy books that were sent down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Abu Talib was not a mu'min, then how did Prophet Muhammad accept a mushrik in their minds to recite the nikah? Even if it were so, why don't they follow the sunnah of Rasulullah now and allow any mushrik to go ahead and conduct our nikah? Right? If this was the sunnah of Rasulullah. He was the one who paid the mahr of Bibi Khadija on behalf of Prophet, right on the spot. According to Quranic instructions, a Muslim woman cannot remain in the nikah of a non-Muslim after accepting the Islam. Neither can live with a non-Muslim. Fatima bint Asad remained in the nikah of Hazrat Abu Talib until his death. The ayat of Surah Baqarah 221 says, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ وَلَا تُنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. It is accepted by all sects that Bibi Fatima bint Asad had accepted Islam. So how did Rasulullah allow her to remain in marriage with Hazrat Abu Talib if he did not believe that Abu Talib had embraced Islam? Allah calls the protection of Abu Talib to be his own protection. In the entire Quran, there's not one mention of any act of a mushrik that Allah has called his own act. Then how is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling the act of Hazrat Abu Talib to be his own and associating it with himself? Finally, Prophet Muhammad has stated in a hadith, Ana wa kafilul yatim ka hatayn fil jannah. Me on the day of judgment will be like this with the one who is taking care of a yatim on the day of judgment. So the easiest path, I usually mention this, is that the easiest path, the shortcut to making it to paradise is to take care of a yatim. Kifalat of yatim, along with all your wajibat. We don't know if our other wajibat will be good enough or not. But if you want a guaranteed place in paradise, is kifalat of yatim. There are many yatama in the world. Yes, you and I may provide for them monetarily, for example. We send money from here and someone takes care. It's not literally taking care of a yatim, sitting down with a yatim and an orphan, placing your hand on top of their head, giving them that love which they lack because they're missing that fatherly figure in their lives. So he says, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah. Me and the one who takes care of a yatim would be like this on the day of judgment. This is when you take care of an ordinary yatim, you will be like this on the day of judgment. Imagine if a yatim is the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If that is the yatim, just imagine the status that you will have on the day of judgment. We look at the support that he provided to Prophet through his words. He said, لِيَعْلَمْ خِيَارُ النَّاسِ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا وَزِيرٌ لِمُوسَى وَالْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ أَتَانَا بِهَدْيِ مِثْلِ مَا أَتِيَ بِهِ فَكُلٌّ بِأَمْرِ اللَّهِ يَهْدِي وَيَعْصِمُ. He said, people should know that Muhammad is like Musa and Masih, Isa ibn Maryam. He has brought guidance for us the same way all the other prophets have done so. And then he continued by saying, Tamannaytum an taqtuluhu wa innama amanikum hadhihi ka ahlami na'imin. Nabiyyan atahu al-wahi min ind rabbih wa man qala la yaqru biha sanna nadimin or sinna nadimin. He says, oh, the leaders of Quraysh, do you think you can kill Muhammad? This is no less than a dream. In his poetry, he's not only protected Rasulullah with his support that he provided, but even with his words, with his kalam, with his ashar, he said this. O leaders of the Quraysh, do you think that you can kill Muhammad? This is no less than a dream. He's the prophet sent by Allah. He receives the revelation from him. And then to repay Hazrat Abu Talib for all the work that he had done, Rasulullah said the following, Ya amme, ربيت صغيرا وكفلت يتيما ونصرت كبيرا فجزاك الله عني خيرا. He said, oh my uncle, you did my tarbiyat when I was young. You provided for me and took my guardianship while I was an orphan. And you helped me when I got old. May Allah give you reward for all that you have done. These are the words of thankfulness by Rasulullah toward his uncle Hazrat Abu Talib. So this last day of the month of Shawwal marks the birth of Hazrat Abu Talib. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq, that we are amongst those who are mahshur alongside with Hazrat Abu Talib. In Nasr al-Hadith, وَأَبْلَغُ الْمُوِذَ كِتَابُ اللَّهِ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضبه ووسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفحا نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف على العباد بجوده ولفظ المظلمين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفية إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان، ما هي آثار البدء والطغيان، هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق، حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق، صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام، ما اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا، واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه، واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه، وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهله، ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهله، بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. وجعل ممن يذكره فتنفع الذكر ان الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله، أشهد أن عليا ولي الله، أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
صلاة الجمعة.
الله أكبر
الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض، الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين، وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا، بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع، ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. وإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة ولهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما. قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقول ويقول بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد تسبيح جناب فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. All of us together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناشرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
For anything necessary to the Father for the sponsors for today's Tabarruk, mother of our own Kadi, Yafisa, Mahoma, Jam, Sabi, please recite to the Father for her. Besides the Father, so that she on. So, let's recite this ayat from Surah Al together 5 times for those people who are in need of dua, for their good recovery, whether they're suffering physically, spiritually, then those who are bringing about their difficulties financially, and give them a full recovery. Let's recite this dua together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 يجعلكم خلفاء إلههم الله فإليما تذكرون. اللهم صل على محمد. I want to remind you that yesterday, Thursday morning, there was a partial solar eclipse. We sent out the message through Masjid-e-Ali email and as well as on the Old Church group and various groups that was shared that the timing was Thursday morning, early morning hours. If you did not perform it or you did not hear about it or you forgot about the case, maybe you can go ahead and do the qada of namaz ayat, inshallah. Also, I just wanted to mention that there was no sighting of moon last night, so today will be the last day of the month of Shawwal, and tomorrow will be the first day of the month of Dhul Qa'dah. And inshallah, in this month, we had the celebration, celebrating the birth of Bibi Masma last night, and the next major event will be the Wiladat of our eighth Imam Ali. And towards the end of the month, we will have the shahada of our ninth Imam, emails will go out regarding all of these programs. Masjid is again open for all the programs. We have daily fajr, we have Quran, we have another salat. The timings of all is listed on the website. So do join us for all of these events. There's no pre-registration needed anymore. Especially Salat al-Fajr on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, starts at 5 a.m., which is very close to sunrise, but well in time of it. So after Salat, we have a group Quran recitation. We discuss the tafsir of Quran, and then we go down for breakfast afterwards. And the Sunday similarly after Salat, we have Dua Sabah and Ziyad Ashura. So we take part in these two programs, start the day off nicely in the morning. Other Salat, Masjid is open from 1 o'clock for Zubair. Masjid is open at 8:30 for Zubair Salat, so you can come and pray between those times individually as well if you want to, or if you want to come and do Salat in Jamaat, you can take advantage of that as well. As I mentioned, Thursday night program, Jummah Salats, none of these require a pre-registration, and any of these suggestions that will be coming up do not require any pre-registration. So take opportunity, the time that we missed in the past entire year, to make up for the time that we now have available. Inshallah, we'll proceed with Salat al-Asr with Allah.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
صلاة العصر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقول وأقول. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربي أدخلني مدخل الصدق وأخرجني مخرج الصدق واجعلني من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته يقول وأقرت. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أعوذ بالله من قوته الله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد تسبيح
Another community announcement that I forgot to announce is the community picnic, which is being arranged by Anjuman. It says, join us with your family and friends on a beautiful day full of games, sports, food, and activities for kids, June 26th at 1:30 p.m. Merrill Park, which is in Fairview Avenue, Colonia, New Jersey. Merrill Park, I guess we'll start to find that. They're requesting, our community to, it is being arranged by Rizwan, but partners and supporters, and it is Masjid-e-Ali, of course, and other various organizations are also taking part in it. So it's a community announcement for a picnic on June 26th at 1:30 p.m. Merrill Park.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خادم فقير بائس مسكين مستقيم مستجيب لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك
صل على
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله في أرضه، السلام عليك يا عين الله في خلقه، السلام عليك يا نور الله الذي يهتدي به المهتدون ويفرج به عن المؤمنين. السلام عليك أيها المهذب الخائف، السلام عليك أيها الولي الناصح، السلام عليك يا سفينة النجاة، السلام عليك يا عين الحياة، السلام عليك صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليك أجر الله لك ما وعدك من النصر والظهور الأمر. السلام عليك يا مولاي، أنا مولاك عارف بعلاك وقرأت أتقرب إلى الله تعالى بك وبآل بيتك وأنتظر ظهورك وظهور الحق على يديك، وأسأل الله أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد وأن يجعلني من المنتظرين لك والتابعين والناصرين لك على أعدائك والمستشهدين بين يديك في جملة أوليائك يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان. صلوات الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك. هذا يوم الجمعة وهو يومك المتوقع فيه الظهور والفرج فيه للمؤمنين على يديك، وقتل الكافرين بسيفك، وأنا يا مولاي فيه ضيفك وجارك، وأنت يا مولاي كريم من أولاد الكرام ومأمور بالضيافة والإجارة، وأزفني وأجرني صلوات الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.